What's up, guys? Welcome back into the Ballroom Podcast. This is episode 6. I'm your host, Rohan and as always, I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arav. Arav, what's going on?
I'm good, Rohan. We had a super exciting first round of the 2022 NBA playoffs. Surprisingly, though, no game sevens. Nonetheless, we still had an amazing slate of series. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of great basketball. In this episode, we're going to be recapping the first round, seeing how the teams close out the series, and then also looking ahead at the second round and sort of giving you guys our preview and our predictions for the second round.
Yeah, let's get straight into it. So to recap our first series, let's go to the Grizzlies and Timberwolves. The Grizzlies won this series 4-2. They were able to close it out in 6 games. This didn't fit my prediction. My prediction failed. I predicted the Timberwolves winning in 7. What'd you predict
Yours,
again, Rohan?
yeah, I was right. Grizz in 6. Yeah, it was just a perfect prediction, flawless.
I mean, the Timberwolves did blow three double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. So like, I mean, I was close, a
I
little
think
close,
I
but
think the Timberwolves were the first team to win it in 5 games, but lose the series in 6.
exactly.
It's unreal.
They, yeah, crazy. They blew two double-digit fourth quarter leads, including two 20-plus point leads in the same game, game 3. They were up by 26 at one point in that game, as we said, as we recapped in a previous episode. However, though, as although the Timberwolves season unfortunately has come to an end, there are some bright spots to look at for this team. They're a super young team, and so obviously, um, taking the 2 seed into 6 games. They're super young and they're super talented. They'll definitely be around for many years. They're gonna be hungry. Another bright spot, Anthony Edwards is gonna be a superstar. Period. He's gonna be an MVP caliber player in the coming years. He averaged 25.2 points in the playoffs, which is amazing for his first career playoffs. And I feel like he's definitely going to be an all-star next year. He even said in his post-game media interview, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be out for blood next year.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah,
excited to see what they can do next season.
yeah. I think in general it was a successful season for the Timberwolves. Although like
Yeah,
all the
definitely.
fans are the only thing the fans are going to remember from the end of the playoffs is obviously how they blew like a bunch of leads. So that's always like a tough way to go out. And but in general, like I think with more if Cat gave them more production throughout all 6 games, like they would have given themselves a better shot to win the game, win the series. They weren't consistent enough. They showed their youth, um, and obviously like the Grizzlies were also a really young team. So I mean, these teams were just like it was basically who was going to make less mistakes down the stretch, and that's who won the
Exactly.
series. You could tell that the Grizzlies were more disciplined, even though they were losing for like what felt like 90% of the series. Like it felt like they never had any leads. They would just claw back and win the fourth quarters, which is basically just told the whole series, and that's why they
Exactly.
closed it out. So I mean, the
Mhm.
Timberwolves, I think they just, yeah, they weren't as mature. They weren't as, because the Grizzlies obviously had playoff experience last year when they played the Jazz. So, yeah, that was just the tale of the series. And I think the better team won just because they knew how to close out games. And they had players who had been there before, but who were also just playing more disciplined than the Timberwolves. And yeah, I think one also interesting thing is D'Angelo Russell. I mean, the way he
Yeah.
kind of went out
Hmm.
this series was pretty tough for Wolves fans, and it
Hmm.
raised some question marks within the NBA. I mean, he averaged I think 12 points on 33% shooting on the series or something like that. Um, which is I mean for your max contract guy alongside Cat, who's supposed to be your second, third star, like that's pretty tough. He couldn't even close out the games. He got benched for Jordan McLaughlin in the fourth quarter of Game
Hmm.
6, so that was pretty questionable. But yeah, in general, I mean Timberwolves played well, and it was a great series. Great
Yeah, and
series
a
all in all,
and a and a great season for the Wolves, like you said
for
earlier.
sure.
Definitely a successful season. Just in Game 5 and Game 6, they were up by double digits, just couldn't close it out. Um, Especially in Game 5, Edwards hit that clutch game tying three, but then greedily just one mistake, just like lost in the game. The Grizzlies possession right after that, Edwards
Yeah.
tried to overplay that ball, tried to get the steal. Jaw got the ball, got ahead, and had a pretty easy layup to win the game. Um, And then in game 6, they just got dominated in the boards. It was 56-37 and 17-6 on the offensive rebounds. So yeah. I mean, for their future is really bright, and I mean for the Grizzlies, kind of like what we said, we've been saying, like the moral of the story for the series is just like never give up. Like although down, like they were down like most of the series, like and then they
Yeah.
turned it up in the fourth. Um, yeah, they were able to pull off wins, like you said. Like this shows that they were definitely the better team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I would have to say this is probably like the most frustrating but entertaining series that I've ever
definitely.
watched.
Yeah.
Like it was so hard at times to watch like the Timberwolves, especially just like they looked so lost even when they were up like 15. Like it looked like
Mhm.
they just didn't know what to do. They were trying to hold the lead when they should have been trying to go for the kill. Um, and that's kind of what cost them. And there were just a lot of mistakes on both ends, but like that's what made it interesting. That's why we got that amazing game 5 game winner from Ja. We got so many great moments. I mean, a lot of players are just balling out on both ends, a lot of talent on both ends. So, although the teams were young, like that's what made it interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Also, speaking of interesting, that jaw dunk in game
But
5,
yeah, he
that's probably
who's
like one of
who
the,
was that over again? I
I think, Beasley. Yeah, Beasley.
yeah, I mean, he just baptized Beasley.
Yeah, it was one of the greatest dunks I've seen.
Just classic Jaw. He's done that like
Yeah,
feels like a
he's
couple times
almost
now.
done that a lot of too many times, almost. But
It's
he
yeah,
actually
it's
did it this time. The possession right after that, he turned back into jaw almost Morant. He
yeah,
missed the dunk, the possession right after that. So
yeah. It was kind of like you remember that Kevin Love dunk? Like that
yeah,
was
exactly.
he
Yeah.
basically just completed that dunk, which was like one of the best dunks we've ever seen.
No, yeah, exactly. And like apart from dunks too, like although Jaw like wasn't his best, like which his dad would agree with, um,
His
although
dad's
he
a
was
hater.
although he wasn't his best this whole series, he did come up big and came up clutch for the Grizzlies. Especially in Game 6, he had that clutch pass to Tyus Jones for the three, to put them up by 4. In that game, they were down 26. Um he had some big plays in game 5. He also actually in game 6 he had like a few layups in a row that sparked a run for them. So yeah, he came up big for the Grizzlies. Although he didn't put up that many like numbers in scoring, he came up big with passing, rebounds. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we can all agree that the series definitely lived up to the hype. It would have been great to have a game 7. Like the Timberwolves should have definitely forced a game 7 at the least because they were probably in position to win the series. But we can all agree that it was a great series overall.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, should we look at the next
Yeah,
series?
let's move on. Yeah.
All right, let's look at the Suns Pelican series. Suns were able to close it out in 6. They took care of business in games 5 and 6. The first one in Phoenix and then in New Orleans to close it out. Chris Paul put up a historic performance in game 6. He went
Impeccable
14 of
game.
14 from the field, which is, I think, an NBA record for most made field goals without a miss. But yeah, it was just such an entertaining series overall. I think we can all agree that.
Mhm,
And we definitely
for
need to
sure.
give the Pelicans their flowers. Like the way they played all series and really to end of the season was just inspirational. And it
Mhm,
was a true underdog story. They
definitely.
started the year 1-12. They had no Zion all season, who was their franchise player. And then they make that CJ trade at the trade deadline, which pretty much turned their entire season around. They made the play-in tournament. They clinched the 9 seed, and they won 2 games in the play-in tournament to make the playoffs. And I mean, they took 2 games off the number 1 overall seed in the Suns, and each game was just a dogfight and competitive, and they really made it a series and proved that they should be there. And it took, I mean, it took the Suns' best efforts to get rid of them and a historic CP performance in Game 6 to knock
Mhm.
them out. So, I mean, it was just a great series overall, and the Pelicans just were such a joy to watch.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like nobody expected this as well, which made it even better. Like everyone started rooting for the Pelicans. It just made there's like you said, it was just a true underdog story for the Pelicans, and it was so fun to watch them throughout
Yeah,
this entire series. Shout out to their 3 rookies, Jose Alvarado, who just brought the energy for the whole team, brought the crowd
yeah,
energy. he was he was there, like he kind of was like a leader for the team. Um,
Definitely.
and then Herb Jones, and Trey Murphy, they all were huge. Like Herb was just a beast. He was so big for the team. Um, super important in all these games, to even come close with the Suns. And for the Pelicans, their future is super bright. Brandon Ingram is like solidifying into like a real superstar, like a mini KD, or like the next KD as, yeah. Um, then they have CJ McCollum, which like gives them that veteran leadership. From the Blazers, he knows how to play in the playoffs. He knows how to make it to the
Hmm.
playoffs.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then yeah, obviously Zion coming back next year, after his injury, that'll be huge for the Pelicans as well, and that'll turn them into an even better team,
Yeah.
than they already are.
Exactly. And I mean, for the Suns, like they look like the team that made it to the finals last year and that won 64 games in the regular season. They just showed their grit and their resilience despite like Devin Booker's injury. And obviously like the effort that the Pelicans put up. Like they definitely the series could have gone either way when it was two apiece. And
Hmm.
you could like
Yeah, for sure.
once game five hit, like you could tell it was go time for the Suns. Like they weren't going to let the series slip.
Yeah,
They showed that they were a championship ready team, and that's
yeah,
kind of what pushed them over the edge.
yeah. That like shows the difference between a championship team and like a good team and a championship team, or like a great team
Exactly.
and championship team. Like the Suns, even though they're like nobody expects the Pelicans going 2-2 with them, at one point, the Suns just like turned it up and just like won the next two games. So
Exactly.
shout out to them as well.
For sure.
And hopefully they can keep this momentum, towards the next series.
Definitely, especially with Devin Booker coming back in
Yeah,
game
for sure.
six. Like that's huge for them going forward. And it shows them that having a game under his belt before just getting thrown into a game one is huge and that he's
Yeah,
ready to
yeah,
go. And
definitely.
which is them at full strength is the best team in basketball. And I think everyone saw that this year.
Yeah, definitely for sure. They're gonna be scary, especially with the book back.
Yeah.
All right, should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so for our next series to recap, we got the Sixers and Raptors. The Sixers won the series 4-2. They were like luckily for them, and not luckily, but fortunately for them, in Game 6, they were able to comfortably handle business. After losing games 4 and 5, against the Raptors. And they got blown out in Game 5 as well. So it was looking a little scary for them, right? Maybe gave Doc Rivers some deja vu. Um,
Yeah,
and this is even, yeah.
there was a lot of talk about will they be the first team to blow a 3-0 lead. I think a lot of people were rooting against them too.
Mhm.
Everyone wanted to see history happen. Everyone wanted to see the chaos that would come from them blowing a 3-0 lead, especially with Harden's playoff resume and Doc Rivers playoff history as well. So
Yeah,
that would
would
have
have been,
been that would have
yeah.
been an all-time NBA Twitter moment.
Yeah, would have been even worse since this one was a 3-0 lead, for Doc
Exactly,
Rivers.
exactly.
Yeah. We were
Would have
even
been an
talking
all-time.
we were even talking to our physics teacher about blowing 3-0 lead about blowing 3-0
Yeah, he knows
leads.
a little something about that
Yeah.
with the Yankees and Red Sox.
Yeah. But shout out to the Raptors though, as they took this Sixers team, this really strong Sixers team, to 6 games, with given like all their injuries, to like Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, which just shows how persevering this team is. They're just like dogs, and they have that, with their coach Nick Nurse has instilled that championship mindset into them.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Spurs. Like they're not ever gonna tank. They're just like
Mhm.
even if they
Yeah,
have like young players, like the system that they have is so stable that they're always going to be a competitive team every year, and they're just going to seek their way in the playoffs. Like even on a down year, which should be a rebuilding year, they're going to be competitive. And yeah, it just shows like the foundation that's been built over the last couple of years, and how they're
yeah,
like
for sure.
how their young talent too like has kind of flourished into becoming like their centerpieces. Like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Fred VanVleet were all like the role players on the on the championship team in
Yeah.
2019, and now they're kind of leading the new young generation forward on the Raptors. So their future is super bright.
Yeah, and they have Chris Boucher too, who also is emerging as a really good start as well for the Raptors.
For sure.
Um, Yeah, they definitely also have, like you said, they have the tools to run it back next season as an even more dangerous team than they were this year.
Yeah,
Like if we like forego all the injuries, they'll be super dangerous, especially in the
definitely.
playoffs. Um, yeah, ultimately, just for the Sixers, Embiid, Harden, Maxey, and like Tobias Harris and the rest of the Sixers were just too much for the Raptors in Game 6, especially
Yeah,
since they were so injury ridden. With like their one of their best players, Van Vliet, out. So
yeah,
there's like nothing much the Raptors could have done. We'll just shout out to them though for
yeah.
competing this whole series.
Yeah, I mean, Game 6, like you could tell, like Harden was like as aggressive as he's been all series, and that was kind of the reason they took it. He was getting to the basket, he was scoring, he was passing. He had 15 assists, I think.
Mhm.
He was playmaking for everyone, and that's kind of where the Sixers are at their most dangerous and at their best. Because when Harden's like aggressive on offense, like he's pulling like two or three defenders to him, so that opens it up for everyone else, especially Embiid and Maxi and stuff like that. But yeah, that's going to be huge for them going forward.
Yeah,
Harden
yeah,
just got to be aggressive.
definitely. He needs to be aggressive. That like the same aggressiveness as as he had with the Rockets.
Definitely. All right, should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. So we got yeah.
Let's look at the Mavs Jazz series. Mavericks won 4-2. They won in six against the Jazz. They took Game 5 and Game 6. Game 5 was an absolute blowout. They won by
Dispatchment.
35 points, which is just embarrassing for the Jazz. And then Game 6, they barely won by 2. Bogdanovich clanked the wide open three to win the game and force a Game 7, which is just kind of like fitting
Yeah.
for how the Jazz have been all series and all year.
Hmm.
Just kind of a disappointment. But
Kind of
the
kind of
Mavs,
like a kind of like a flashback to that Conley miss in the bubble. Just like
I know
happened right
that's,
all over again.
and it was like the same reaction from Donovan Mitchell. He's just
Yeah.
like on his knees, like he's just in a lot of pain
Devastated.
mentally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the Mavs, they played solid, like with and without Luca, which is the without Luca games were like the most impressive. I thought, like to
Mhm.
go up two
Definitely.
one without your best player, like that really just allowed Luca to come in and be comfortable and not have to like rush back. Um, and obviously Brunson, who just looked like a flat out star in the series, he averaged 28 points a game, which is unreal. Maxi Kleba was huge for them. Shot 52% from three. So they just got great all around production from the team in this series, and that's what kind of brought it home. And obviously Luca dominated once he came back. But I think the series, as everyone knows, was probably more about the collapse of the Jazz rather than the Mavs winning it. Like the Jazz shot
Yeah, for sure.
28% from three as a team in the series, and Donovan Mitchell was like, I mean, he was average at best in this series. Only shot 40% from the field, 20% from three, which is quite abysmal. And his defense was really subpar as well. Like he was letting everyone just blow by him, and it looked like he was like not really trying on defense, which kind of like
Hmm.
messed them up as a team because it just let anyone get to the hole at will. Um,
Yeah.
and just in general, their shot making and scoring and their perimeter defense was just flaky all series, which the Mavs obviously took advantage from. So it was a really poor showing from the Jazz.
Yeah, I remember like I was watching the game by myself, game 6 by myself. My dad walks in, just one play, to see one play. My dad walks in, Gobert is like standing in the paint, no one's on, like Finney Smith shooting a three is wide open. And
Yeah,
my dad is just like, what are they doing? My
that's the
dad's just like, where's
story.
the perimeter defense? He hasn't
That's
watched
the
a single
story of the
game all
Jazz.
series.
Exactly. You can just tell like it's
Yeah.
just the defensive scheme was just not there for them this series. Like Gobert kind of just wasn't like him being in the center, like and having to protect the paint when the Mavs went five out, like obviously sold them, and that's why the Mavs were so good from three this series and were able to score at such a high level.
Yeah, definitely. And like from the as we said, like in with the big from the beginning in episode 1, I think with this first round exit, it looks like the Jazz might have to blow this all up. It might
Yeah,
be the end of this era or iteration for the Jazz. They might have to do some trades with like Mitchell and possibly Gobert, either one of them. Also Conley, who's like aging a little. He didn't look like he just looked really bad all series. Averaged only 9 points. His defense was poor, and like kind of to sum up the series, he traveled at the end of Game 6, which kind of
Yeah,
like lost them the game, which just like sums up their whole series and like his
yeah,
whole series.
yeah.
Um,
And it like the fact that he might get moved now too, like especially given that they like traded for him like 2 seasons ago and they gave up
mhm.
a bunch of assets and picks to become a championship contender. Like it just shows like how quickly your window closes as like a championship, like a contender in the league. Like a year ago, they were the 1 seed, who
Mhm.
were one of the favorites to make it to the finals or even win the championship. And now like you're getting bounced out of the first round, and you're questioning whether your franchise is going to be like as it was to begin the season,
Yeah.
or if your star player is even going to be there next year. Like it's a really tough position to be in, and it just shows how delicate the NBA is and how hard it is to build a championship team.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, should we move on?
Yes, do it.
All right, so next we got the Warriors and the Nuggets. The Warriors won this one in 5-4-1. They won game 5 in a thriller. I feel like it really could have gone either way, but Steph Curry, my main man, took over at the end with some clutch layups. He had that one really clutch left-handed layup, which was kind of the dagger.
Yeah,
But like Jokic again was unstoppable. He had 19 rebounds. Um, so the Nuggets were up 8 at the start of the fourth. They had all the momentum. They should have closed it out. So I mean, it could have gone their way. They could have taken this game. They had a great shot, but like you can never count the Warriors out. They're just like too good of a team to be counted out at any time. So that's
yeah,
the fact that they can come back, that they were able to stay with the Nuggets this whole game, come back and prevail. It shows how like solid they are, how they can close games out, how they can come back, and how good they can be in future rounds in the future as they go deeper in the playoffs.
yeah. Obviously, that comes with their playoff experience and obviously
Exactly,
making.
championship mindset.
Yeah, I mean they made 5 finals in their last 5 playoffs,
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
you can kind of tell like it's just in their DNA. But
yeah,
I think for the Nuggets, like this series is just like well, you kind of just like have to tip your hat to Nikola Jokic for what he
hmm,
was able to do with this team, and obviously like he didn't have the greatest role players, even though like they did step up the series. Like there was a lot of good production from Monte Morris and Bones Highland and Will Barton, and it just
yeah.
wasn't obviously that it's just not consistent production from them, and he doesn't really have that. He didn't really have that second star to go get him a bucket when they needed it the most. So, but I think the fact that they made it competitive in the last 2 games, and they didn't just roll over, which a lot of teams would have done. They took Game 4 in a really good game, and Game 5 went down to the wire.
Yeah, so
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 I
did
mean,
game 3 as well. So
yeah, exactly. So the last 3 games, like they were super competitive. After the first 2 games, everyone was just like kind of laughing at the Nuggets, like that they were fighting and stuff on the bench and stuff.
mhm.
Like they looked like really dysfunctional, and the fact that they were able to turn it around and sort of make it a series was something to commend.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I feel like with if they had Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they would have been
Yeah,
super scary.
yeah,
Like nothing there's nothing much else they could have done. Um, but like they made it to the conference finals with Murray and Porter.
yeah,
They'll definitely be back and hungry for more next year. I feel like with Murray and Porter, they would have been seated higher this year. Or at least given the Warriors a run for their money. But I mean, shout out. I mean, yeah, shout out to the Warriors. Shout out to some new guys. Especially Gary Payton II, who came up with some huge shots in Game 5 that helped Golden State prevail. Shout out Andrew Wiggins, who had an amazing series. He played amazing defense, was clutch, especially with that rebound in Game 3, and that corner three. He stepped up at the right times. Especially
yeah.
I mean, except for that just put back dunk, but oh
Oh
well,
yeah, that was tough, but
that's
stuff
all.
doesn't break your way always. But I think overall, great series. Obviously, for the Nuggets, like going forward, like they have what they need to be a championship contender already on the roster. I don't think they need to make many like changes in the offseason in terms of like big trades and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
obviously, signing some good role players, sort of building your championship team 1 through 15 is going to be huge for them. But going forward, like we know their future's bright, and Jokic is only getting better. Hopefully, we see Murray and Porter back to how they were before. They got injured or even at a higher level. He hasn't even reached his potential as a player for them. And Murray was just ascending, but when he got injured last year, so we know that the sky's the limit for them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And they're like you said, they're kind of they're a young team as well. Like Jokic is only 27, I think, right?
Yeah, something like
Mur
26, 27. Yeah,
yeah, Murray's like 27. Same with Porter, a little
I think
younger. So
Murray's probably like 24 right now, 25. So they're
24. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
24, 25. So
Yeah,
they're all
young.
really
Yeah,
young.
they
So
got a long ways to go. They'll be back for many years.
yeah, they're definitely probably one of the best young cores in the league for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right,
Yeah,
should we look at the Bucks Bull series?
let's
Um,
do it.
Bucks 1-5. And the last three games were just a blowout. Game 3-5, like we're not even competitive, even after Middleton went out in game two with his knee injury and didn't play the rest of the series. But I mean, game three, the Bucks won by 30. Game four, they won by 24, and game five, they won by 16. So it was tough to watch, definitely, because the Bulls weren't even in any of these games, and it was basically just a blowout in all three. And obviously, Bucks looked really solid. Like even without Middleton to do this is like
Yeah.
really impressive because first two games, like they kind of raised some questions, like are they the same championship team that we saw last year? They weren't really like as sharp as they were on offense and defense. So, but they showed like why they're the defending championship team that they were last year. Giannis was dominant all series. Drew Holiday and Grayson Allen were huge and stepped up when Middleton got injured. So it was a great team effort for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for the Bulls, this series was like kind of how the regular season played out.
Yeah.
They were like they started the series pretty well. They started it promising. They lost game one in a super close game. Took game two. Looked like it was going to be a good series. Um, so like kind of similar to the start of the season they started the season as a number one seed, and then as they suffered some injuries, um, they kind of dropped down. Lonzo got his knee injury, which got him out for the season. Caruso had a wrist injury, missed 2 to 3 months. Patrick Williams was out most of the year. Um, yeah, so after game two, they like you said, Rohan, they just got blown out. They got ran the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Caruso got hurt. Levine, COVID protocols.
It's be for like the fourth time now. It feels like
Yeah,
he's been in the
yeah,
health and safety protocols
dude,
like for
yeah,
so
no,
many times.
yeah. What's he doing?
I don't know what he's doing. I don't know how
Yeah.
it's possible to do it that many times or
I
get
mean,
it that
yeah,
many times.
especially on top of the fact that he was like playing on like one knee or like 50%.
Yeah,
His knee
yeah,
was
yeah.
50%. So
He looked like pretty injured, like
it
to end this
reportedly.
regular
So
season.
mhm.
And also like in the playoffs. It didn't look like he was his normal self. He wasn't like getting to the rim as easily, and he just wasn't blowing by his defenders and getting his buckets. So, which is obviously a huge blow for them because he's like a main part of their offensive scoring. Um,
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
but I think I mean it's just like the way the series just kind of like got out of hand, and they really just got ran out of the building three straight times. It's just kind of similar to like how they just ended horribly as a team in the regular season. They went 8-15 after the All-Star break. They at one point were one seed. They ended as a 6 seed, and yeah, it was a tough ending. But obviously they have like a strong core going forward with DeRozan and Vooch and Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. So they just need to be healthy and obviously fill out the rest of their roster over the offseason
Yeah.
to get back to where they were to start the year and obviously be a contender in the East going forward.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they can get some outside scoring outside the DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine.
Yeah,
I mean, they're getting Lonzo back, Caruso, but they hopefully they can like develop some young guys like Patrick Williams to be better scorers, Kobe White, um, or maybe just like yeah, just get they just one like the main thing to take them to the next championship level or
yeah,
like deeper in the playoffs is more outside scoring outside the big three.
yeah, definitely. I should move on.
Yeah, let's do it. So for our final series to recap, we got the Heat versus the Hawks. The Heat won this series 4-1. I think it's safe. Rohan, would you agree? It's safe to say that the Hawks kind of like underperformed this year as they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and they were 9 seed this year.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because they were injured most of the year, and it just like their continuity was
Yeah.
not the same. Like, it was they just had a really rough year. They started off really slow, like really badly, and they obviously climbed their way back to around a 500 team, to end the year. And I just think that yeah, I thought like the role players that were performing so well for them last year just didn't have the same production this year.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
like John Collins, like he wasn't like that second star that he was last year. Um, Bogdanovich and Gallinari weren't as consistent this year
Hmm.
throughout the regular season and in the playoffs. But yeah, it just kind of it all came back like to a crashing burn at the end with this Heat series. Like they got ran out the building. Like they were clamped by the Heat defense. They were swarmed. Like Trey got nothing going. So
Yeah,
it's obviously
Trey.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah, Trey had just like you could say terrible series considering his
Yeah.
standards. The Heat just like locked him up. He averaged 15.4 points per game in this series. In the regular season, he averaged like 28. So
Yeah.
he dropped like by like around 13 points, which shows that yeah, the Heat just like stifled him, and he definitely underperformed. If the Hawks had any chance to win against the Heat, it would have been if Trey turned it up and not been like literally ice Trey, like
Yeah.
figuratively ice Trey.
Yeah. But I think obviously it was he just like the Heat defense weren't even letting him get past the 3 point line. Like he had to settle for jump shots basically like on every offensive possession, and wasn't able to get to the hole and get to the foul line and stuff like that. So once Trey Young, who's basically like their star player, and the motor of their team, like once he's not clicking, like it's really tough for everyone to sort of
Exactly.
make up for that,
Yeah.
especially against a really
100%.
good Heat team. So obviously the Heat pretty much showed like exactly what they thought they'd be in the playoffs, which
Uh-huh.
is like a defensive powerhouse.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously they have enough offense to make to put up points on the board and take some games. So they were really convincing in the series, especially with Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler, who kind of dwindled at the end with injuries. Kyle Lowry missed, I think, the last 2 games, and Jimmy Butler was out for Game 5. But
Mhm.
Heat are just so deep. That's just their system. Like it's always the next man up. Everyone can score and defend, so they have enough players to sort of make up for that, and they were able to close them out in 5.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the Hawks too, like a bright spot for the Hawks is DeAndre Hunter. I think he's
Yeah,
developing really well into like like a future like star player.
yeah.
He
I
could
think
even t
the issue for him though the last couple of years is he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and
exactly, yeah.
so we haven't
If
actually
he,
seen what he
yeah,
can be in the regular season for them as like a second, third star for Trey Young, but he's definitely really promising.
I feel like if he can stay healthy and keep being developed, he can turn into like like a solid, like really solid or like superstar second option
Yeah,
for the Hawks. This shows because in game 5 he dropped 35 and
yeah,
he almost brought Atlanta like back in single-handedly brought them back into the game. He just hit like two or three threes in a
yeah.
row. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't the series we thought it'd be. I think I picked the Heat in 7, just because I thought Atlanta.
I'm pretty sure I picked the Heat in 5.
Yeah, I thought Atlanta, like after the 2 playing games, like they were slowly gonna build their way back to what they were last year, which is an Eastern Conference Finals team. But I mean, I was probably a little bit too like ambitious with them, and I thought everything would start to click right away. But it's tough when you're playing the Heat out of all teams
Mhm.
because they're just the most steady and
Yeah,
defensive minded
yeah.
team, and it's so hard to beat them.
We can't forget they made the finals like 2 years ago.
2 years ago, exactly. So,
So
but the Hawks team are like they have a similar trajectory to what the Heat were. Like they
yeah, I
made
mean they made
the
the
Eastern Conference
Eastern
Finals,
Conference final. That's true.
and
Yeah.
now they kind of fell off this year. So hopefully next year is their bounce back year, like the Heat have had this year, and they'll definitely be back in the future.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's start to preview the next round now that we've got the first round out of the way. Our first series that we got is the 2-3 matchup between the Celtics and the Bucks. Probably one of the most exciting matchups that we have in the
Definitely.
second
Yeah.
round. Just an amazing series. What's your prediction for this one?
My prediction is the Bucks in 7. I think there's a good chance of this series going to 7. I think the Bucks they just won a championship. I think they have that same mind. They definitely have that same mindset. They have the championship experience.
Yeah.
championship experience. I think they'll take this one 4-3. But I mean, I said the same thing with the Nets, so
Yeah.
I don't know that we can't underestimate the Celtics team.
Yeah. I think a lot of people want to overlook the Celtics, but I mean, the way they've ended the season, the regular season, like from January onwards, like they were probably the best team in the NBA.
Oh
And
yeah.
they proved it to us. So a lot of people were a little bit like questioning like if they'd be able to, carry it over into the playoffs, but they definitely proved it to us in the Nets series. Um,
Mhm.
that with that being said, I have the Bucks in 6.
Yeah.
Just because like they're the defending champions.
Exactly. Yeah. That was
You
like
have
my
when
reasoning. Yeah.
you have Giannis on your team, like he's I think we can all agree like probably the best player in the world when it's like all said and like out of everyone else is kind of inconsistent in comparison to him. Like when you see him, like what you're getting. He's gonna dominate the game. Like he's just a power. He's just gonna run through everyone and score 30 and while also grabbing 15 boards and setting up his teammates and playmaking. So he just does everything so well. And I feel like this team is just like a well-oiled machine. Like they're built for the playoffs. They have a bunch of gritty, defensive-minded players. Drew Holiday is amazing. He's a stud. Grayson Allen, who is just a shooter. He's going to get you buckets, and that's what you need with Middleton out. It's tough though, because like you look at the Celtics and like what
That
do they not
yeah.
have is the question.
Unlike the Bulls, they have multiple guys that can like help in withstanding Giannis and their other guys like Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis, Drew Lopez.
Yeah,
They got Al Horford, Grant Williams, who are elite defenders. Jason
yeah,
Tatum, who's becoming an elite defender. Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, who's the defensive player of the year, and Robert Williams for rim protection. Like they're a complete team because
yeah,
guys can all score as well. Like
yeah,
they have like obviously Jason Tatum,
yeah.
Brown, Smart,
You also have
Horford,
Derek White as
yeah,
well.
along with Peyton Pritchard as well.
Yeah,
So unlike the Bulls, like they don't just have three guys who can score. Like the whole team can score. The whole team can play defense. Like they're an all around team. So they're definitely gonna give the Bucks a run for their money.
yeah. I mean, this series is a coin flip to me. I'm giving the Bucks the edge simply off the fact that they're the defending champions, and
Yeah, for
we
sure.
know that once the playoffs come around, like they're turning it up, and that's what we saw in the Bulls series. Like they completely wiped the board in the last 3 games. And if they can keep that going, like I don't know a team that can beat them in the East, or even across the whole board in the playoffs. So, and if yeah, I mean, even with Middleton out, I feel like they just have all the pieces necessary to make up for that, and all the players that on the team. Like I have faith that they'll be able to step up and sort of in his absence help them take some games and close out the series. But I mean, it'll be a close one. It's really hard to say right now, and who knows if our predictions are even going to hold up.
Yeah, for the stepping up part in the absence of Middleton, like we already saw that happen kind of in the Bulls series with
Exactly.
Grayson Allen
Exactly.
stepping up big time. So if he can replicate that, then I think that they'd be in good shape.
For sure. But I mean, definitely like probably one of the best series, probably if not
Yeah,
the
for
best
sure.
series in the second round. So I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that one as we are.
Yeah, definitely.
I should look at the next one.
Yeah, let's do it. So next we got another super exciting series. I think
Yeah.
it could be on the same level as the Bucks and Celtics. We got the Warriors and the Grizzlies. Rohan, what's your prediction here?
I got the Warriors in 6. I just think like if the Warriors are clicking like they did in the first 3 games of the Nuggets series, like there's not many teams that can beat them, and they're probably like that. They're probably one of the best teams in the league when they're playing like that. And they should definitely be able to be in control of the series when Curry, Clay, and Poole are all clicking. Like it's
Hmm.
super hard to stop them. Also, their small ball lineup with those three plus Draymond and Wiggins, like it's lethal. And I think they'll obviously like I think one big question mark or one big thing to look at is how they're establish their perimeter defense to stop obviously
Yeah.
Desmond Bain, and Dylan Brooks, and Steve Kerr will need to decide on whether to start or bench Jordan Poole, because you might need Gary Payton II in for his defense to guard John and those other boys.
Or
So
or you can bench Steph 6 men of the year.
I think we all thought at the end of the Nuggets series that Steph's the closer. Uh, but yeah, obviously 6 man Steph might be better than 6 man Poole, so that'll be a dilemma.
Yeah, I mean, for my prediction, I picked the Warriors in five or six, I think. I think just like with the way they played, especially in games 1 and 2 against the Nuggets, if they can replicate that, then like I feel like the Grizzlies will just be like they won't know what to do, just like the Nuggets. Wiggins, like like Rohan said, like I feel like Steve Kerr will need to decide on like whether to start Gary Payton the second on defense for John Morant. Um,
Hmm.
Also, like Wiggins and Clay are going to be huge in guarding these guys. Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, even like Draymond's going to be huge in guarding like Jaren probably, or like Brandon Clark when he comes off the
Yeah,
bench. Because Brandon Clark's been a beast recently, especially
yeah,
in the series against the Wolves. Um,
yeah,
but for like the Grizzlies, they'll definitely need to step up from the Wolves series. Like they can't. I feel like the Warriors won't blow won't blow these leads.
yeah,
Especially at 26.1, they'll go up to like 40.
yeah,
If they're up 26, they'll need to step up. They can't get down so much early. They can't be down double digits in the fourth. Like I feel like unlike the Wolves, the Warriors are, like you said earlier, they went to the finals 5 years in a row. Um, they have the experience. They're not gonna blow all these double digit leads. So the Wolves just need to get off to better
Grizzlies.
starts. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, the Grizzlies, sorry, my bad.
yeah,
The Grizzlies
yeah,
need to get off to better starts, and yeah, if they do, it's just all these games are gonna look super exciting.
yeah,
This team won 56 games. Let's not forget that they beat the Warriors 3-1 in the season series. They beat them in the play-in last year. Um, so yeah, I think they're ready for them.
yeah, definitely. I mean, they obviously in the Wolves series, like they look like a young and inexperienced team in the playoffs. Like they made obviously a lot of mistakes, and I think obviously if they revert back to the team that they were in the regular season, which is like the second best team overall in terms of record in the league, like, and they didn't look like the young and inexperienced team that they were the last series. They looked like a vet team that had experience and played with poise and played with discipline, and
Hmm.
that's a team that can beat the Warriors, because you're not going to beat the Warriors by just running and gunning and trying to out dunk them and out shoot them. Like the Warriors they've seen it all, so they know how to pretty much play against any type of playing style. You're just gonna have to play smart and disciplined. But I think a big thing too is John, Jaren.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
both need to step up from last series, like in order for the Grizzlies to have a shot. Jaren especially like needs to play more disciplined, because like him fouling out and
Yeah,
only
too
playing
many
like
fouls.
25 minutes a game, like that's not helping your team win games. You have to be out there on the floor. And like we saw in game 6, he played 30 minutes or over 30 minutes, I think, for the first time all series. And I mean, he had a monster game and was a huge reason why they won or were able to close that game out. So um, when everyone on the Grizzlies is clicking, like they're a hard team to beat, and I think people should definitely not sleep on them in this series. Like
Yeah.
they are the higher seed for a reason.
Hmm.
In the
They
regular
got the
season, they were
home court advantage too.
exactly like they were one of the best teams in the league. So anybody who's counting the Grizzlies out is probably overlooking them way too much.
Yeah, definitely.
So it'll be a
Should
great
we?
series.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a super exciting, one of the best series we got here.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
Yes, do it. All right, so yeah, so the Sixers Heat is the next one. The Heat, what's your prediction for this one?
I got the Sixers winning 4-2. Um, I mean, although like Embiid is out, I mean, out indefinitely with an orbital fracture and a concussion, that's like obviously huge for them. But I feel like if Harden can go back to Houston Harden, if he steps up and shows up in his superstar form, um, and turns it up, then the Sixers could be super dangerous. But obviously they'll need major contributions from other players like Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. But I feel like with how the Sixers like ended off the series against the Raptors with that blowout win, I feel like they're on like really good momentum right now, and I feel like they're definitely a scary team, like a powerful team. Um, But like a key for Philly is that like James Harden needs to be more aggressive and play like I feel like some of the best basketball of his life for my prediction to uphold. Um,
Yeah.
this like kind of like what you mentioned in episode one, when we were doing like the rapid fire questions. Um, this gives some like added pressure to Harden, especially with Embiid out indefinitely. But like hopefully Embiid can come back sometime early in this series or just like sometime in this series in
Yeah.
general. But like if Harden doesn't step it up, I feel like the Heat defense could put the Sixers offense in prison, like with how they did against the Hawks. So um if Harden doesn't step it up, my prediction may have to be wrong or like make have a change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have the Heat in 7. But I think like right now it's so hard to tell because we don't really know who's even playing from both
Yeah,
ends. Like
injury
Embiid,
series.
yeah, exactly. We know Embiid's out. We don't even know if Kyle Lowry or Jimmy Butler's playing. So I'm based on the fact that I don't know who's even playing. I'm just gonna go with the Heat just because I feel like they're the safer option. And I know the Heat are a more stable team overall. Like they have more. I feel like I don't really trust like the Harden and Doc Rivers as much as I do like Eric Spoelstra and Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler and all
Mhm.
those boys. They're a team that's made the finals 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So they have that championship DNA. They know what it's like to win big games and win big playoff series. So that's why, like, I mean, especially with all the depth they have too in their defense, like defense wins playoff games.
and it wins
So
championships as
and
well.
it wins
So
championships. So that's what you got to rely on. And with the Heat, like it doesn't matter who's playing, they're a system set. So regardless of who's plugged into their system, like they're gonna have an elite defense. And I feel like what if you can stop Harden in the first 2 games, like with all their perimeter defenders, like without Harden like being a threat on offense and scoring the ball, like the Sixers are they're gonna have trouble scoring because you can't really trust Tyrese Maxey, who's only 21 years old, and this is his first playoffs. And obviously Tobias Harris, like he's a
he's just
solid
like a solid
offensive
role
player.
player. He's just like
Yeah,
a
but
solid role player.
yeah, but we don't expect him to go off like
Exactly.
every
Like
game. He's not a
yeah,
consistent 20, 30 points per game scorer. So he can give you obviously that 30 point a game or 25 point game, which can
yeah,
obviously
but
put you over
like
the edge, but
yeah.
it's not reliable.
Ultimately, yeah, he's just like a role player. And Harden like needs to step it up in order for the Sixers to win this series. I feel like without Embiid, that's like the
Yeah.
main. That's like the main like takeaway or like focus here.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the last series.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have the Mavericks and the Suns. Rohan, what's your prediction here in this series?
I got the Suns in 6.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's anything out of the ordinary. I feel like that's
Hmm.
a pretty stable prediction. I just think, obviously with Book back from his hamstring injury, CP playing at an all-time level to close out the last series against the Pelicans, like this looks like the team that won the West last year and the team that was the favorites to win the championship going into this year. And I feel like they have all the wing defenders necessary to stop Luca. They have Mikal Bridges, who got second in DPOY voting this year. Jay
Hmm.
Crowder, who's just a dog on defense. Also Torrey Craig, who's the same. So they're gonna have Luca stoppers to plug in at any point in the game. And they also have a center who is defensively versatile and can switch 1 through 5, unlike Gobert, cough cough, with DeAndre Ayton. And I mean that's huge to have in a playoff series because that way you can't get beat like we saw with the Jazz. Um, and obviously they have 2 of the clutchest players in the league in Book and CP. So I mean they're the favorites. So I mean there's no reason to bet against someone. All of them are healthy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. My prediction is very similar to yours, Rohan. I picked the Suns in 5-4-1. I feel like it's hard to go against the Suns or like um having them go into 7 or even like 6. I feel like the Suns with that championship like mentality and championship mindset ingrained into them since they went to the finals last year. They're just like built for this. And the Mavericks, although like they've made the playoffs consistently each year. Like in the recent years, they haven't gone like all the way to the finals or like the conference finals. So I feel like it's hard to bet against the Suns, but although for the Mavs, they have three like tremendous players. Um, they have Luca, they have Jalen Brunson, who's like forming into an all-star. He had an amazing series against the Jazz. Um, they also, yeah, Luca, Jalen Brunson. Um, but I feel like they may not be enough against the Suns.
Yeah, I mean also Dinwiddie too. Like he's
Yeah,
huge for
Dinwiddie.
them. If Dinwiddie's playing like as he did like throughout a lot of the Jazz series, like that gives them three like elite shot makers against the Suns, like which is tough to beat, and that's why I had them grabbing 2 games off the Suns, just because I feel like they'll be able to have games where Luca goes off and Jalen Brunson's unguardable and Spencer Dinwiddie's getting buckets at will. That's what they did against the Mavs, and I don't see why they couldn't do it a couple times against the Suns. And Luca, obviously, like he needs to be able to take over this series for the Mavs to have a chance. He needs to do it similar to how he did against the Clippers the last two playoffs.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think one the interesting thing too is it'll be interesting to see how Jason Kidd adjusts for this series, because obviously last series is completely different. And like they obviously had a scheme there where um, it won't hold up against the Suns because they have amazing perimeter defenders who will prevent them from obviously making as many threes as they did, and also getting to the rim so easily. And they also have great interior defense, which will make it tough for them to obviously finish at the rim and get layups and stuff like that. So obviously they'll need to prepare a bunch. And Suns are just a difficult team because they do everything so well. So, but that's what having 3 shot makers like Luca, Brunson, and Dinwiddie is helpful for.
Yeah, I feel like they have more than three as well. They have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a
Yeah,
bucket as well. He's a sharpshooter. They have Maxi Kleba, who
yeah,
doesn't miss either. Um,
yeah,
hopefully I wish they had Hardaway Jr. though.
yeah,
That would have added even more weapons.
yeah,
Would have made it much tougher for the Suns, but I feel like they'll just need everything to click for them to have a shot.
yeah,
For them to even take like a game or two against the
yeah.
Suns, they need
Also,
everything to click.
also
Um,
Dwight Powell is going to be huge because
oh yeah,
you can't
definitely.
as long because if Aiton is just dominating in the paint, like it's that just gives the Suns such an advantage. And obviously Powell's like he's not a big scorer, like big paint scorer. So he needs to just be a solid interior defender and protect the rim and do everything, because the Mavs don't really have a center. Otherwise, like they play pretty small in general. So they're
Mhm.
just gonna have to play into their strengths, and that's kind of what they are. They're a small ball team that plays fast, and they have a lot of playmakers and a lot of guys who can create for others. So just got to stick to their identity, and that'll give them the best chance to knock off the Suns. But obviously, the Suns are still the heavy favorites.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely way different animal than the Jazz, and it's going to be a even tougher challenge for Luca. But I feel like if he can step it up, if he can play like he did against the Clippers in the last two seasons, like you said, then they could have a good shot in taking some games here.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps
Yeah,
it up. I mean, obviously, we have a bunch of great series going forward. It's the second
S-
round, so
yeah.
everything's going to be
I'm looking
step.
forward to
Yeah,
see what happens.
yeah. Obviously, the intensity is going to be amped up a bunch now. Stakes are obviously higher, and it's going to be a lot of great series. Hopefully, a lot of great games, and we'll look forward to recapping them as the games progress. So thanks for joining us in this one, and
Yeah,
we'll catch you after the game ones of the second round.
yeah. Thank you guys. This was fun.
All
Peace
right,
out.
see you
Catch
guys.
you guys later.